Hello. So today we have an hyperbolic function and the exponential function on one graph. And the question here comes and say, the sketch below shows the graph of f of x is equal to 8 to the power of x minus 3, and g of x is equal to negative 4 over x minus 4. A, negative 2, 6 is a point on the graph of f, and B is a point on the graph of G. C is the x-intercept of the graph. So what we see here is that these two graphs are intersecting at at C. That's where they're intersecting, and we are given 2 points here. But also, before we continue here, if you see this straight line, they didn't specify, but if you see this straight line, it means that the value of y will be the same as also of b. But now let's start with let's see the question that we have here. The first question is saying write down the domain of f. The second is range of g. So when you're talking of domain of f, let's just get to answer the questions. So domain of f. So let's start with the first question here. Domain of f. So 4.1. So domain, when you're talking of domain, it's actually describing the x values that can be approached or approached by your graph. Okay, that can be approached by your graph. So here our graph of f is this graph, an exponential graph. And when we ask to find the domain, we can see that it can stretch and approach any value of x in the positive side and also in the negative side. So what we see is that the x is element of real numbers, okay? X element of real numbers, or you can say x element of negative infinity to positive infinity, okay? So you can put it like this, or you can put it like this. Either way, your answer will be correct. Then what about 4.1.2? We're looking at the range. Now, range is y values. So here, let's just indicate there y values. We're not talking of range. And when we're talking of domain is actually describing x values, or you can say input values. Okay. So in this case here, y values that can occupied by g. Our g is this graph here. Okay. Now, I think you guys know that when you are looking at this graph, because of this negative that you see here, we expect to see a graph to be in the second quadrant and and fourth quadrant. Okay. But in this case here, we are only given one part of the graph, but we are not given this part of the graph. So remember, you are not going to give us the range of both the graphs which are not there. You are going to give us the range of what is present, on the diagram. So what is present in the diagram is one part of the graph. And when you're talking of the range now, range in this case will be above 4, because you can see that this is the asymptote. Asymptote here for this graph here is -4. What is it? And now we are saying the graph can occupy values above -4. So that's the answer for that. What about 4.1.3? Equation of asymptote of f. Now, equation of asymptote of f, our f is this graph here. And when you're talking of asymptote is this value that we have there. And that's y equal to -3. So asymptote is actually the line that can be approached but cannot be touched by the graph. So that's what it means. Then the third question here, the second question here, what we have is 4.2 is saying show the value of a is 3 to the power -1. Okay, show the value of a is 3 to the power -1. Where do we see a? We see a on the graph. And remember, your f of x is also your y, the g of x is also y. So don't be surprised when I'm actually using y on some of these questions. So here we're going to say y is equal to 8 to the power of x minus 3. Okay, and for us to actually find the a, we need to substitute a point of f, which is -2 and 6. So let's substitute here -2 and 6 in our equation. So our y here is 6. So we're going to have 6 is equal to our a. We don't know. We are looking for a to the power -2 is -3. So here, if we are to take the value here, 3 is going to be 9 is equal to a to the power -2. And when we have that, to remove the negative that we have here, -2, we need to have to multiply by -1/2 and also power of -1/2 on both sides. Okay, now if you do that and punch in your calculator there, it's gonna be 9 to the power of -1/2. What do we get there? We get 1/3. So our a in this case here will be 1/3. But according to exponents, what we know is that 1/a is also equal to a to the power -1. So in this case here, your answer will be a will be equals to 3 to the power -1. Okay. Now let's go to 4.3. This is 4.2. Let's go to 4.3. Now saying determine the coordinates of C. So we want to know the coordinates of C, but what we see with the coordinates of C, this is an x-intercept. X-intercept. X-intercept y is equal to 0. Now y is equal to 0, but it's x-intercept for which equation? Is x-intercept for both equations, f and what is it? And also g. So we can have a look at f. Let's just do the 4.3 here. So if with the equation of f, let's now have the full equation of f. This is going to be equals to 1/3 to the power of x minus minus 3, or we can put it as 3 to the power -x minus 3. That's the equation that we have. Okay, so now if we are to substitute 0 for what is it, for x, for y, so it means that we're going to be 0 is going to be equal to 3 to the power -x minus 3. Then we take the 3 there. 3 is going to be equals to 3 to the power -x. Okay, now once we have the same base here, the power that the exponent that we have here is 1. So once we have the same base, we're going to equate the exponent. So in negative, it's going to be 1 is equal to -x. We divide by negative both sides. X is going to be equals to -1. So the coordinates of C in this case will be equals to -1 and 0. I want you also to substitute is 0 for this equation here. So substitute for 0 there, then actually look for x. You also find the same value of x. So that's the answer there for C. That's the coordinates of C. Now let's look at the 4.4. 4.4 is saying, let's just say 4.4 there. Write down the values of x for which g of x is greater than f of x. So g of x is greater than f of x. Now, when we look at this, we don't need to calculate anything. We just need to look on our graph. Just check on your graph. Now we have the coordinate of -1 and 0 there. We also see that your g of x is actually above f of x from this -1 until 0. Okay, because this graph here, this is an asymptote. So x equal to 0 is an asymptote here. So it's only above f of x from -1 until 0. So that's where we are talking about here. So this is where it's actually above what is it? Above f of x. So in this case here, our answer will be negative. So it's x. So it's going to be -1. Okay, less than x less than 0. Okay, so that's where your values are. Let's actually look at the last part of the question. 4.5, determine the equation of the straight line through A and C. So straight line through A and C. What do we know when we're looking for the equation for a straight line? We need 4.1. For a straight line, we need gradient and a point. That's what we need. We need a gradient and a point. So in this case here, our gradient, we know that gradient here, gradient is going to be equals to, so gradient, which is M, our M is going to be equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we are dealing with 2 points here. So the point that we are having here are your A and C. So C here is -1 and 0. Okay. So in this case here, we're going to say now, let's take this one as our y2. So it's going to be 0 minus 6 over -1 minus, it's going to be minus 2, okay, which is going to give us -6 there over here -1 plus 2. It's going to give us -1 plus 2 is going to be 1. So our answer there is -6. So that's our gradient. Okay, our gradient is -6. Now we have the equation here, y is equals to mx plus c. Now with the y equals mx plus c, we just substitute one of the coordinates here to get your to get your c. So in this case here, we can substitute -1 and 0. Let's have -1 and 0 in the equation. This is going to be equal to 0 is going to be equals to -6. X is 1, -1, okay, plus c. So in this case here, we're going to take this negative and negative is going to be +6. Then we take the +6 that side. It's going to be -6 is going to be equal to c. Okay, now we have the c, so we can actually substitute our values there. It's going to be -6 x minus 6. So this becomes our equation. So in this case here, it means that this graph here, when it's passing through negative A and C, it will also cross at 6, -6. Okay. Now, let's look at the second question here, which is 4.5.2, okay? Determine the equation of axis of symmetry of G with a negative gradient. So what we know is that for G, it always have two axes of symmetry. So these axes of symmetry, the one is with a positive gradient and the other one with a negative gradient. So what we have to do here is that for this equation that we have here, so for an equation in the form of y is equals to a over x plus q, for equation like this, to find the axis of symmetry, we have the positive one with the positive gradient is just going to be equals to y is equal to x plus q. What about the negative gradient, which we are actually looking for? Is going to be y is going to be equals to -x plus q. Now, what is the q? Q is the asymptote. Asymptote, which asymptote do we have here? So in this case here, we can see that in our 4 point for our graph of G, we see that the asymptote is -4. So the equation here is just going to be equals to y is going to be equals to -x -4. So that's the equation that they are looking for here. Okay. So this one I just gave you for next time, so that you know that the equation here of axis of symmetry, the positive one, is y equal to x minus 4. So x minus 4. Okay, so that will be the positive one with the positive gradient. So the gradient here is positive, and also the gradient here is negative. Okay, now let's look at the last equation, which is 4.6. If AB is a horizontal line, so if AB is a horizontal line, calculate the length of AB. So here in this case here, remember what I told you in the first time we said, if this is a horizontal line, it means that we have the y value. So y is there, so it's x and 6. So x and 6. So what we just need to do here is to find the x value. So what do? We substitute on the graph of G. Graph of G is here, and we're looking for the x value. So the graph of G is y equal to -4 over x minus 4, and we are substituting we are substituting the x and 6. So we are looking for actually for x there. So we're going to substitute 6 there. So 6 is going to be equals to -4 over x minus 4. Then we take the 4 that side, it's going to be plus, then it's going to be 10 is equals to -4 over x. Then we take the x there, it's going to be 10x is going to be equals to -4. Then we take the 10 there, x is going to be equals to -4 over 10. Then let's just see what we get there. If we say -4 over 10, what do we get? We get 2 over 5, which is -0.4. So here, this is equals to -0.4. Okay, so now what we have here is actually from 0.4. So we've got 0.4 here. Okay, and also -2 there. So for us to get the difference here, we're just gonna say, okay, the distance, the length of AB is gonna be equals to 2 minus 0.4. What do we get here is gonna be 2 minus 0.4, we get 1.6. So it's going to be 1.6 units. Okay, that's the final answer there. So guys, thank you so much. Until next time.